来以为找个有钱的女朋友可以少奋斗20年，现在天塌了。新婚姻法解释2月1号开始正式执行。女朋友再有钱也是她的了，跟我没关系。全网的男人都在笑啊，就我一个人在角落里面偷偷的哭泣。兄弟们。
It's not a marriage law. It's a divorce law. This law assumes that a married couple will divorce, so even before they get married, the ownership of assets is predetermined.
民法典婚姻家事编司法解释2马上就要施行了。
Brothers, everyone pay attention. Starting from February 1st, the Judicial Interpretation 2 of the Marriage and Family chapter of the Civil Code has officially been implemented. This judicial interpretation consists of 21 articles, and many of the changes in these articles have truly caught those gold diggers off guard, especially the one about adding a spouse's name to the property title after marriage, which has undergone a huge transformation. You see, in the past, if the name of a spouse was added to the property title, many people would think that this meant half of the house was freely given to the other party as a gift. But now, this operation of adding a name to the property title has become completely different. The property that belonged to one person before marriage, even after adding the spouse's name, still belongs to the original owner. What's even more surprising is that in the past, if the parents paid for the house for their child and the names of both spouses were on the property title, the general public would think that the house was a gift from the parents to the couple. But now the situation has changed. The new rule clearly states that if the parents pay for the house will belong to the side of the parent who paid. In other words, the property belongs to whoever paid for it. There will now be more explicit legal protection for this, and understanding this will make you realize that this new regulation tends to protect the party with stronger economic ability, in other words, the side with more financial resources. For women, this means that marriage is no longer an insurance box. In the past, many women thought that after marriage, if their name was added to the property title, it was a kind of security from their husband. But now, if a woman does not have economic ability when it comes to divorce, there's not much she can take with her. In fact, she might end up with nothing. For men, the impact of this change is even bigger. Although it may seem like the threshold for marriage has lowered, in reality, women will not only look at your personal qualities but will also care more about how much money and assets you can provide for them. Especially in future marriages, just showing the property title and your bank account balance won't be enough to impress a woman. In future marriages, a woman's expectations will not only be for the house and car, but she may even directly ask the man to give her cash. Whether women will continue to agree with the traditional marriage model of man buys house, woman buys car, might become a question worth thinking about.
Nobody's getting married as everyone will be focused on acquiring assets to make themselves comfortable in the future. There will be a generation of single elderly people.
我真的生气了哈，姐妹们，我要提醒一下你们。
I'm really angry right now. Sisters, I really have to remind you all. The new marriage law for 2025 is out, and we can't keep sacrificing ourselves for that little family anymore. Stop just staying at home, raising the kids, and doing all the chores every day. Oh my God, you're stuck at home like a maid, cleaning floors, wiping surfaces, and you don't even have the time to wash your face or put on makeup. You're working so hard, but the man still thinks you haven't contributed anything. This is just ridiculous. Today, a lot of men left comments on my post. Reading those disgusting comments from men really made me mad. I really don't want to discuss it with them anymore. Some men don't even come and leave comments for me. Let me read some of these comments to you. It all started when I said men should buy a house for the girl. As a result, a lot of men left sarcastic comments. Some said, "Then you women should buy your own house, why wait for the man to buy it for you?" Others said, "Most women just want to freeload a house from men." Some even said, "These women don't want to buy a house for themselves, they just like it when men buy it for them, that's what makes them feel comfortable." There was even someone who said, "In the past, women could get a share of the property during a divorce, so women who don't have a house now have to buy one themselves." And one man said, "Why didn't your dad give you his house when you got married? Now, no one's property is so easy to divide." One man said, "Only what you work hard for is truly reliable." For this comment, I gave it a like because I agree. And there was even a woman who commented, "A house is only valuable when it's your own. Women shouldn't make excuses for their desires." When I saw that this was a comment from a woman, I honestly felt a little heartbroken. Please, don't misinterpret me. What I meant to say is, without a house, a woman feels like she has no home. I am not saying you should just depend on a man. What I want to express is that women should have economic independence in marriage, not give up on their goals to rely on men. The reason I made this comment is that during this Chinese New Year holiday, many people went back home. You know what? Some girls who married far away or have bad relationships with their families, when they go back home, they are completely ignored. They feel like outsiders, treated like flies, constantly being chased around. It feels like they're going through a trial. The new year, which should be a time for warmth and reunion, becomes a frustrating and depressing time for them. This is why I said, men should buy a house for the girl. I didn't expect so many men to leave comments. And especially, this woman left a comment saying, "Don't make excuses for your desires." I really want to ask, is having desires really a bad thing? Desires aren't inherently bad. The key is to fulfill them yourself, not rely on others. I want to emphasize that girls aren't looking to depend on men, but to achieve independence through their own efforts. To the sister who left that comment, do you really understand what I'm trying to say? Now that the new marriage law has been enacted, it's time for us to rely on ourselves.
It will result in more cheating from the wealthy spouse, less birth rate as both need to work, and less stay-at-home mums that might look after elderly parents. A provision should have been made for the spouse staying home as a carer.
If women are still stuck at home doing all the housework, who will appreciate you? I ask you, who will appreciate you? To summarize, these comments made me realize one thing. Most men, at least 95% of them, think women ask for a house from men just to take their property. They think women want to get something for nothing, to take their wealth. But I want to ask in return, where did 98% of the men get their houses from? Isn't it mostly from their parents' support before marriage? How can you be so self-righteous when your house was bought with your parents' money? You say women always ask for a dowry, at least 80,000 yuan. Does that small amount really break you? Look, there are luxury cars all over the streets now, and you can't even afford this small dowry money. What are you men even worth? What confidence do you have to say these things to women?
Does it mean that men who are fed up with their wife can throw them out of their lives without losing a yuan? Many women will be thrown out in the streets. This is a terrible thing for women. If they marry, nobody knows if their marriage will last or not.
以后可能结婚的就会更少了。
The number of people who might get married in the future will likely continue to decrease, and the reason behind this is quite simple: the implementation of the new marriage law, which essentially clarifies the ownership of assets. In simple terms, who owns what money, who owns what house, and who owns what property from their parents. Even today, some women still ask whether having their partner transfer the title of a house or car to their name before marriage would help them avoid issues with property division. In fact, this approach is also ineffective. The court determines property ownership based on the bank transaction records, meaning, whoever paid for the house or car owns it, and transferring the title will not change this fact. The essence of marriage, to some extent, is actually an exchange of interests between the man and the woman. It may sound exaggerated, but in many cases, it is indeed driven by considerations of wealth, social status, and so on. The new marriage law makes the division of property before and after marriage so clear that some women are now reconsidering whether to get married at all. After all, the motives for marriage are multifaceted. Some might say it's for love, but in reality, for many, it's more about material interests. And now that the new marriage law has closed off the financial aspect, some people might feel that it's more trouble-free to not get married at all. If this trend truly takes off, the marriage rate might decrease, and the divorce rate could drop as well. Marriage has never been purely for love. It is a complex consideration involving economics, safety, social recognition, and even biological instincts. You can ask your friends or relatives around you whether many people get married purely for love, or whether they have weighed multiple factors before making the decision.
The point of marriage is for a woman to enjoy financial security in return for the burden of bearing and caring for children. It is to create a family unit where each party contributes something and not just money. With this new law, women will feel even more the pressure to be financially independent and focus on their careers instead of children. Birth rates in China are going to be even lower now. and more people are going to be unhappy.
姐妹私信我说，新的婚姻法司法解释是偏向男性的。
Yesterday, a sister messaged me saying that the new judicial interpretation of the marriage law clearly favors men, especially in terms of post-marriage property ownership. She feels that the law is emphasizing men's interests in this regard. However, why do I believe that this is not biased toward any one party? As I've mentioned before, when a woman chooses to marry a man, it's usually for a certain purpose. If she cannot rely on financial support, then she must rely on genes. And when it comes to genetic selection, this directly affects the opportunities most men have in the marriage market. Because, in marriage, genes are quite simple. The most obvious factors are height, appearance, and education level. From the perspective of genetic inheritance, men who are lacking in height, appearance, or education are more likely to use financial resources as a means of competing for women. But if this advantage is weakened, and the division of property before marriage becomes very clear, many men may find their competitiveness in the marriage market significantly reduced. After all, even with material support, many men still struggle to find the right wife. Without material support, how many women would be willing to choose them? Now, women don't necessarily need to get married to have children, as technology is advancing so rapidly. Techniques such as artificial insemination are very mature, and women can choose men with excellent genes, high education, and outstanding appearance to conceive their children. This way, they can avoid unnecessary constraints in marriage while ensuring better genetics for their children. Additionally, even if a woman chooses to have children as a single mother, she can still maintain economic independence and personal autonomy. This way, if issues arise in her marriage, such as the husband's infidelity or family conflicts, she won't face being left with nothing. Imagine, if a woman relies on the financial support of her husband, in his family, she might not have a voice. The property might not belong to her, and she could even be kicked out at any time. In such a situation, the woman would be in a very vulnerable position. Here's some advice for all my sisters: whether you get married or not, you must find a way to own a house that belongs to you, no matter how small. Even a tiny one-bedroom apartment is a strong backup plan. Especially when facing risks in future marriages, owning a house that belongs to you means you can handle any unexpected situation independently.
The children will suffer the most. Women have to struggle for their own financial independence. Who will be at home to raise the children when both parents will be outside the home all day? Daycares and schools will raise children. Emotional connection and home life will suffer too. Some may choose single parenthood.
After I expressed my support for the new marriage law, some people became emotionally agitated and sent me some unspeakably harsh and offensive words. I won't list the specific content here, but it was truly shocking. I boldly guess that some people are so angry because they believe the introduction of the new marriage law means she or he will lose the opportunity to obtain the other party's premarital property through marriage. In fact, those who think the new marriage law is unfair are either harboring bad intentions or are selfish. Here, I want to clarify that I am not promoting inequality between men and women, nor do I intend to create gender conflict. My viewpoint is based on the principle of private property, where both men and women should enjoy equal rights. From now on, property belongs to the individual, while the uterus and children are jointly owned by both spouses. This means that in the past, some people might have tried to marry to achieve the goal of marrying well means making a lot of money, but this route has now been legally closed.
Raising good human beings and taking care of the home and bills has value whether the man or woman stays home. This pushes both spouses to work and children to not be born or to go to Gov for care. Terrible. This will force women to not stay at home and take care of the family and kids, putting more work pressure on her, resulting in her selecting the option of no kids at all. The contribution of non-working women has to be recognized as she is building future generations. What is the purpose of marriage? To have trust, caring, and sharing for each other. Man can buy a house, but it's women who make it a home. Good luck to both men and women. Tough times ahead. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Support us and help us spread support for men around the world. Do comment and share your thoughts. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.